Progress, not perfection. So, one question that we should ask ourselves is either what progress, not perfections mean for every one of us, or what progress, not perfection will you celebrate this year? I
We
would
are
love
live.
to hear from everyone. Also, we are live. All the technical issues are ironed out. Mia, you have the stage.
All right. Thank you very much, Anna. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today and welcome. Welcome to our panel. So, my name is Mia Mudayo. I am the HR manager at Value Momentum Inc. It's a software and service company. Joining us today during our session is Miss Diana Agu and Miss Ijoma Michelle, and they will be talking about their career and how they've been able to take it to where it is today. So, ladies, welcome, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Absolutely.
you,
So, very
everybody.
absolutely. Thank you so much. So very quickly, let's just kind of dive into it. We do have about 20 minutes allotted to our session today, so I'd like to kind of utilize that time as much as possible. I do have a few questions for both of you. So let's start, just like Anna's mentioned. Let's talk about what does the topic today mean to you? Solidifying your career in a diverse workplace. So tell us by kind of taking us through your career trajectory. How did you start and to bring it to where it is today? And actually, that's a two-part question. The second part of the question would be, did you have a mentor and how has that mentor helped you? Diana, we'll start with you.
Okay. Thank you, Mia. Well, thank you everybody for joining. It's a pleasure to be on here. It's a great honor. I definitely appreciate the invite and big well done to the organizers and all the previous speakers. I know taking time from your work or anything else that you're doing, it's a lot. So definitely appreciate it. So when I think about, it's almost like a three-part question, Mia. When I think about progress, not perfection, I think generally speaking, we all focus on the fact that, hey, don't focus on the big thing. As long as you're making progress, as long as you're hitting those sort of little milestones, you're doing great. When I personalize it to myself, I'll say, listen, celebrate every day. Celebrate every outcome that you get. Sometimes it could be something as simple as an email that you wrote that made the way at work, cleared the path for a project that you were working on, help somebody else get something that they were looking for. Celebrate that. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's progress. And when you look at the bigger picture, it's about wherever you are, celebrate yourself, celebrate your accomplishments. You might not be where you want to be. You might think, oh, maybe, I wish I could be here. I didn't get that promotion, whatever it is, but just, celebrate it. And remember, it's progress, not perfection. When I think about my background, interesting background, I actually I studied law and then criminology, and then I ended up in project management and the business management space. And so I've worked many years, in the PMO space as a COO, chief of staff. Prior to my current role, I was, global head of strategy, focusing on marketing, communication. So I've definitely worked in diverse spaces, and it's been an interesting journey, just sort of progressing. Every so often, I feel like I'm almost having a career change. There's something new I have to learn, there's something different going on. And so it's definitely been an interesting journey. But I'm glad to be here. Like Anna mentioned, now I run my own company, which is a home care agency, but we also have a technology firm, a technology startup, and it's really, people first. Everyone matters. How can we use technology to innovate? How can we use technology to improve how we look after each other? And definitely, I've had mentors. I've had a champions. I've been very privileged, actually, uh, at work, outside of work, to have people that have believed in me or taken an interest in me, or even people that I've reached out to. And so I would say that even in my sort of current situation now where I run my own company, it's because of the mentors that I've had that have really encouraged me and pushed me and say, hey, you can jump, you can do it. It's never easy to start out on your own. And now I run a little startup. It's a whole different world from when you work for a company. And I've just been blessed that, I've had a lot of mentors and allies and people that have just supported my journey. So It's a 3-part question in one. I hope I did it justice, Mia. I don't want to take too much time, but that's
Absolutely.
my
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Ijoma, same question to you, please. Not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we lost each other. Sorry.
Maybe we lost her.
Okay. All right. So let's move on while we wait for Ijoma to rejoin the meeting. So Diana, next question would be, when it comes to talked a lot about working in different diverse roles. So that means you've been privy and you've had visibility to seeing company grow their in the work. So tell me, what do you think contributes to that growth, especially where we know diversity is a challenge? What do you think contributed to it? And in your previous role, what are some of the tactics in which you've been able to increase diversity in the workplace?
So Mia, I got the second question, which is what do I think contributed to diversity and what are the tactics? I kind of missed that very first question. I apologize. It kind of went off a little bit.
Okay, that's actually the question. I just mentioned, you mentioned that you worked in different diverse roles. So how have you been able to increase diversity in those roles?
Oh, thank you. That's a very good question, actually. I think that obviously for us as women, or if you look at it and say for us as minority, it's very important for us to stand out. I've always been in technology, actually, even though I'm not a technologist, which is very interesting. I don't know. I don't think we'll have enough time in this conversation to go into that. But I've always worked with technologies. I love technologies. I love technology. My husband is actually a software engineer himself, and so as you all know, women, we're not the biggest, percentage in technology, and so I think it's always been my goal to always see how I can participate in events, activities, actions, anything that will increase the workforce. On a personal level, looking at my positions, more recently when I was at Capgemini, I was fortunate enough to be able to set what the diversity quota would be for gender diversity for women. And I made it 50%.
Oh, wow.
I did a lot of pushback, because people are like, we don't have a lot of women in technology and all that. But I said, you know what, we can do this, we can find this, let's go out there and proactively search for, women such as the people on this panel and people listening in that have great talent, that are willing to learn, that are willing to try new things. And so that was very hard, I think, for the recruitment team at first. But, we figured it out. We made it happen. We actually started with a campus program, the college graduates, and then we kind of, basically rolled that across the workforce. Another thing that I think I was fortunate enough to do was I actually created a program called Return to Work. So basically, along the same lines of what you asked, how can we increase diversity? How can we make a difference? It's not just, oh, I'm here, I'm showing up, I'm speaking, or I'm giving 50%. We actually said, okay, if we have issues with women that have not been at work or women that have taken a break from work, what can we do to support them? Because in technology, as you all know, there's just so many technologies. Again, I'm married to a software developer. He's constantly learning something. I'm sure you guys all agree with me. And so how can we help to empower women that maybe have taken time off work, due to maybe parental leave or personal reasons, and they're coming back to work, they may even lose promotion as a result of all that. How can we do that? So we actually created a program called the Return to Work. Capgemini Financial Services is very proud of that, where we actually offered free training for women. We got management to commit to training people for free. And after that, also making sure that they find places for them, they find roles for them, they find jobs for them. So maybe you took a break to have a baby, and you were a Java developer, but now you come back and it's all about cloud. How can we help you to train you, so that you know Azure and everything else that you're supposed to know, and Kubernetes, right? So it's something that I was fortunate enough to create and be part of before I left Capgemini last year. And there's many other programs that I've done, but I'll just stop there. I see Ijoma is back.
Thank you so much. Actually, good to hear. All right, Ijoma, the same question for you, which is,
Okay.
Oh, thank you. Welcome back. All right, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Absolutely. You're all good. So just tell us about the topic. What does solidifying your I'm sorry, what solidifying your career in a diverse workplace mean to you? How has that impacted your career and to bring it to where it is today as a vice president of a major banking industry? So please go ahead.
Thank you, Mia, for that question. And also thank you to everyone for joining in. I didn't start off as that title in my career. I mean, I always loved to meet people, get to know you, find out what your goals are. And I always had a passion for helping you create wealth and sustaining wealth. And that started off with my father, who in his early years was an investment banker as well. And I remember him going to work, coming back, telling me about selling shares and telling me to talk to my friends. And I would go to school and just talk to them about, hey, you know what? We could go sell newspapers and then use the money to buy shares. Or you could talk to your mom, you could talk to your dad. So it all started off from, a young age and solidifying my career. I mean, I did start off saying, oh, this is where I wanted to be. But all I knew is that I wanted to own the whole process from a client perspective need. So a client can come today and tell me, hey, I want to, I don't know anything about money. I just need to manage money. I have no idea what it is. Now, instead of me just telling you, oh, you can put your money in XYZ, or you can save for the rainy day, or you can start off building credits, whatever it is. I wanted to own the whole package that concerns you. I just wanted to be the person you will think of when you have a need that has to be solved. So that was where my passion started off from. And then realizing the stages I needed to get to in the world where we are, where because of mostly what happened back in 2008, you can't just spring up and say, oh, you're talking this, you're talking that. So you have to be licensed. You have to be properly licensed to be able to speak. And so most of the things that I needed to do was make sure I get licensed, do the exams that are required of me. Now, those exams are not particularly easy. You may fail once, twice, but that should not change you as long as you know what it is you're aiming for. And of course, I had people to look up to in the workplace. Now, not just in my workplace, but in where I found myself. And I'm in the habit of, when I'm entering a new organization, whoever is hiring me or speaking to me, or whoever I realize it's going to be my direct boss, I just throw it at you. You're going to be my mentor when I come in. Just so that way, you know that I'm ready to work, I'm ready to learn, and I go the extra mile to put an appointment, just set up something on your calendar to check in with you. And so that's me being intentional about growing, not just in that company, but in knowledge as well. I always sometimes like to go away from the fact that this is what I do. I always like to say, regardless of the company you find yourself in, who are you? So you have to find out who you are first, regardless of wherever you find yourself. So I am passionate about financial independency. I'm passionate about women having control over their finances. I'm passionate about people waking me up early in the morning or late at night and say, hey, I have this question. Can you help me? Regardless of what organization I'm working with or regardless of where I am. So that's who I always want to channel myself as. And the same way I seek mentors, I also try to mentor people too as well. So I mentor for various organizations, and in my previous office where I worked, I was part of the Chicago area mentoring program. And in where I am right now, I do the same thing as well. So I am also passionate about seeing people grow in their careers as well. So it's not about just me only solidifying myself, but I also want people around me for us to be able to do that. And then being diverse, solidifying yourself in a diverse workplace, all of us can say it's not easy at all. But the key is about being intentional. You also have to look out for those areas in the organization that you're looking at targeting or you want to grow into. And then once you're able to find that out, then you have to seek out people that can help you. You have to start getting allies within wherever you find yourself. It could be your supervisor. It could be somebody else outside of your team. You just have to start looking for ways to make networks internally, externally, whoever you find yourself with. That's another key to growing yourself in your career.
Very good. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was great. All right. So you did mention, actually, both you and Dan mentioned something that I wanted to kind of just piggyback on very quickly. You mentioned competence development, the ability to continues to learn. Okay, am I audible? Can you hear me?
I
Okay.
missed that.
You mentioned
Competency development. You mentioned the importance of continuously learning.
Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned the importance of continuously learning. And I think that's great because you can have a role, but in order for you to grow in that role, you have to be willing to learn. So I kind of appreciate both of you, but for talking about that, because it's not easy to climb a corporate ladder without continuously learning and asking those questions, find those mentors. So thank you for sharing that. So the next question is, in the world of technology, Ijoma, this question is for you actually. You've been in the world of investment banking for a long time. So I'm sure you've worked with some tech companies. How does innovation, how does it help increase your, and how do you think, what is the future of technology in the world of banking and investments? Please go ahead.
So in my role as head of private clients when I was at United Bank for Africa, UBA Capital, we usually used to just get trades in from clients through our emails. So clients would say, hey, we just want this, we want, and then we get it through emails. But I said, no, because one, if we have a target, and our target was that for each day we should have at least more than 100,000 orders per day. Can we do it? Well, at that time we couldn't. So the only way we could do that was have it automated. And how can we do that? We had to launch an online trading platform. So that way those trades drop into the broker's book, and it makes it easier than us getting it in email, filling out forms, taking it to the broker, process it, and all of that. And so we launched our trading platform called investnow.ng, and it was launched on the floor of Nigerian Stock Exchange. And that tripled our, effectiveness, the client base as well. And of course, it opened our outreach. So we're only dealing with clients within Nigeria, but we then started processing orders for clients outside of the country. So that's like my first taste on how technology plays a long way in implementation in an organization.
Very good. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you. All right. Then the next question is for you. You've mentioned that you played quite a few leadership roles. So tell us why it's so important for leaders to be interested in curating employees' development. Can you just take us through some of the things that you've done in the past and some of the things that you would like to do more in the past, in the future?
Wow. Thank you. Always very good questions, Mia. I think that hopefully we all know this, but leaders, we play the biggest role really in employee engagement, employee development from a company perspective, just to be clear. Yeah. However, as individuals, we play that role for ourselves because we're responsible for our own development. But looking at it from a leadership perspective, I think it's key that leaders are interested. They pay attention. Nowadays, a lot of companies have so many programs, and so it's almost like those programs are running themselves. The good people in employee engagement or HR are kind of doing all the work, and the leaders are kind of just tapping in and tapping out. I feel like we need to pay a little bit more attention. I mean, I think if we've learned anything from COVID, it's about the fact that, yes, of course, we can still continue to do great work while working in a remote environment, but also that we can actually continue to encourage learning in remote environments. A lot of organizations will prefer the face-to-face engagement and all that. Very good. Every sort of type of learning or training has its own place. But I think that encouraging employees or making sure that there's opportunities for employees to learn in a different type of environment, not just work. I think one of the things that we find now is people working 40, 50, 60 hours. Sometimes technologists probably agree with me. And then they still have to stay on top of technology and still know the latest technology and be certified and be aware. I think, for lack of a better word, we need to cut people some slack. We need to pay attention, take a step back and see how can we help people to get to where they want to get to without them necessarily feeling like it's a burden. People spend all their time, most of their time at work, but they still have deliverables. And I'm saying this from a personal experience, right? A lot of us, we start work very early, we finish very late, we're in and out. It's a lot of stress. I think leaders enabling flexible working environment. I think leaders really trying to make sure that there's opportunity for employees to be dynamic in how they do the training. A lot of people find that even when they're on vacation, they're like, oh, I have to complete this training. Or time they're supposed to spend with their family, I have this training. Are we just assigning training now just to show that, hey, this person has completed 40 hours of training? Or is it that they need to have that training and that we, provide an opportunity for them to be able to safely have that, to be able to do that training? So in terms of what I've done, I've been involved in a lot of things. I think from a training perspective, one of the things that we do is really try to, for lack of a better word, survey employees and just kind of see where they're at. Like, what do you want to learn about? What else, what's going on? Because we and I'll tell you why I said this. There was a training book, in quote. It was wasn't a technology platform, but that's what we called it, that I was responsible for. That housed all the training in the organization. And, we were supposed to refresh that book and make sure it was, current. But at the end of the day, I'm not a cloud architect or, software developer. It's like, I can just look at what the industry is saying, but what do people want to learn? What are people interested in? Where do they have the time to, so we definitely use surveys. We've used a lot of open forums where we're able to have face-to-face to find out like, hey, what do you want to learn? What can we do? I've really facilitated a lot of that. I've used even our HR colleagues in their conversations. We've used a lot of leadership forums to just really engage with people and kind of find out what they're interested in. We've basically, I think, and I'm speaking particularly even about my previous role, made sure that we got managers to use that time. And that's another thing. And again, like I said, there's just so much we can talk about this. Our managers having one-to-ones with their team members. Someone's like, there's no time for that. Ijoma mentioned earlier about how when she starts the job, she basically says to her manager, hey, you're my mentor now. And then she proactively sets that time. But the truth is, you can do that. A lot of leaders may not have time. And it's easy to give up. So that's why I started to say managers need to be interested and pay attention. That's like it's a word that, you can interpret in any way. You need to really pay attention. Whatever situation you're in, whether you're a VP or a director or an MD or whatever, you're just a regular, a single contributor. Make sure that we are paying attention to other people and see how we can help. It's not just about loading training onto people, but I've been fortunate enough to, participate and assist in creating a lot of training forums. But I think the one that I'm most proud of more recently is the work that we did with Positive Planet, with Anna, and I think Ijoma is also part of that. Positive Planet US is led by, the amazing Ingrid Gonzalez. She's in Google. And, we were able to create really, for lack of a better word, a learning system, a learning platform for entrepreneurs, in order to accelerate their business, to help them take their business from ground zero to the top. And, we literally put together the curriculum ourselves, did some research. We got some SMEs, experts in the field to come. I think even Ijoma came to talk to us about finances and wealth building. We just wanted to give people a different flavor of running a business or how to start a business, not just something that they could just go find online or on the internet or do it by themselves. So the list is long, but I think it's important to just be interested. I found that when I've worked with other colleagues, when I've mentored people, I always ask them, what do you want to do? What are you interested in? Because I might feel like, okay, I'm a software developer, I should go down this path, but is that the right path for you? And I'll finish with this, you got to bring your authentic self to work. It's hard sometimes, especially in the corporate world, where you feel like you have to act a certain way. And if I talk to women, sometimes we feel like we have to be a certain way as well. Well, let me demystify that for you. You do not. You should be yourself. You are powerful in yourself, and yourself is unique. And it may not work for everybody, but I guarantee you that it will work for you and create a path as long as you're focused. So be authentic. And so speak up. Sometimes people will beat you down. Sometimes it won't be easy, but keep raising your hand. Yeah, if you have to email that mentor 5 times, mentorship, championship is always something that can be a little bit controversial because sometimes you might want somebody as your mentor and they don't want to be your mentor. You got to be very mindful of that, or maybe they just have their hands full. It's not necessarily that they don't want to support you. So I would say, find somebody that perhaps is in a position that you want to be. Find somebody that might be a good listening ear. And there's a difference between a mentor and a champion. I don't know if May is planning to ask me this question, so maybe I'll just put it there now. The mentor is somebody that you can tell. You tell them every single thing. Those of you that don't know Carla Harris, go check her out. She defines this more articulately than myself. But you can tell them everything. You can say, "Hey, I had a rough day. I didn't deliver that project on time," and they'll use the experience that they have to guide you. So sometimes, it might not be good that it's people that you necessarily closely work with, although they have their own use. But a champion is somebody that will speak up for your sponsor. Every organization has different names. Will speak up for you when you're not there. And for those folks, they only need to know the good, and the good. You gotta sing your accomplishments. You can't go to your champion and say, "You know what? I was supposed to deliver that project on the 5th of April, and we're only 80% there." You only want to tell them the great accomplishments, not necessarily saying that you should not tell what is happening, but just keep it to the great accomplishments. Also make sure that the champion is somebody that does have the power to be in those rooms that you are not in. Carla Harris said the most important decisions about your career will be made in rooms that you can be in. So the champion, the sponsor, is the one that speaks up for you. And then lastly, we'll talk about allies real quick, guys. This is very important. This is International Women's. Let's talk about that. Allies could be your fellow colleagues, could be your friends, could be other people you work with, could be people in different organizations. However, there's something about them. It could be specific to your role. It could just be to professional accomplishments that you want to focus on. Whatever it is, you need to build your army of allies. Those people that you can go to and you can say, "Hey, I'm struggling with this. Can you help me? Or I see that you've already delivered this project. What did you do? Can you share that?" And then you also be a good ally, right? It's not just about receiving, but let's help each other out. I think that in the workplace, sometimes we're so focused on ourselves that we forget to bring other people up with us. Women, we need to help each other. We need to bring each other up. Sometimes people don't even know that they need you to bring them up. You bring them up anyway, because we are supposed to be allies and support each other. So, if you're a software developer, you work in Google? Yeah, go talk to somebody in JP Morgan or talk to somebody at Meta and see what they're doing there and see how you can learn from them and see some innovation that you can bring to your work. Just so those 3 things I think are the type of people or persons that you need in your life. So the allies, the mentors, the champions, and knowing how to work with them and interact with them is very key. Perhaps, Anna will do another session on that specifically, but I think I just wanted to really share that so that, all the people that are listening can really pay attention. Now we're in this evolving workplace now because of COVID and, flexibility and of course the great resignation, right? We're in the great resignation. This is a great opportunity, guys. Don't shy away from it. If you need to change organizations, do whatever you need to do. Sometimes you have to move sideways to move up. Take advantage, raise your hand, speak up. In terms of actual actionable steps, always speak up. Honestly, do not feel like, "Oh, I don't want to say anything. I don't want it to feel like I'm only after myself." No, if you don't advocate for yourself, who's going to advocate for you? Speak up. If you want something, go after it. And even if you think you're not ready, sometimes as women, research says that, men apply for positions that they feel like they're 70% qualified for. And we as women, we feel like, "Oh, we have to be 150% qualified for it." Put yourself out there. If, for me, I just told you guys, my last role, I was, responsible for a marketing team. I had to work with a chief marketing officer. I'm not a marketer. I didn't have a marketing background, but that was the role that they felt like I needed to be in because they needed help to, for lack of a better word, rejuvenate that space. I took it on and I did my homework. I did my research. So, just put yourself out there. Make sure that you are, building that network. building that network, even if it's your network of allies in the beginning, engaging with people. Now I know that we can't maybe meet everybody all the time. Yeah, set up a virtual launch day, set up a catch up, just connect with people. Don't be shy, just really try to put yourself out there and see what else you can learn. Back to you, Mia.
Thank you so much. Thank you for actually sharing champions and mentors. Thank you for answering that. All right, this will be our last question before final thoughts. And our last question is for Ijoma. You ready? All right. So I just wanted to kind of, pivot on some of the words that we've used during this session. You talked a lot about being intentional about your career. You talked a lot about being interested in what you're doing. Ijoma, you really dived into it, especially with the banking and investments got from your father. So you have that interest. Has there been any time when you felt there were some growing pains that how do I move this to the next level? Now, Diana just talked a lot about mentors and championships. You also mentioned having managers and saying, hey, you are now my mentor. I'm sure, now I'm not speaking for you. Did you always have managers that were willing to be mentors?
Okay.
And, right? So if at that time you did have a manager that was just interested in you doing some good work, how were you able to work around that and turn that opportunity into a champion for you? So please just give us just a brief history on that.
Okay. Thank you, Mia, and thank you, Kemi, too, for Anna, for sharing the ally, the champions. Those are good terminologies to note as well. Yeah, I said starting off, just growing up and learning from my dad and what he did regarding advisory. It was just something that I just enjoyed. I love to meet people and I love to talk. So I just incorporated. So maybe that's why it's not exactly, how will I put it? It's not hard for me to just come into. But then with the kind of role one is doing, there are also challenges as well. And one of it was what I mentioned earlier, which is getting licensed, in quotes. You have exams you need to study for. You can't just come up there and say, oh, this is what I represent. You have to make sure that you go through all of that. And part of the challenge is too, if you're not prepared for it, if you do not study, you're going to fail. And so I'm being open that I did not pass those exams at first go. And it did not deter me either, because it is what I wanted and because I am being intentional about it. I went back and I studied. So that's the thing about most of the things that we want to achieve. We may try the first time, we may try the second time, it doesn't work out, and we say, oh, you know what, let me just go on and do this other role or do this other career that doesn't take much of my time. And you get there and you see yourself kind of wanting, because it's not something you love to wake up to, and you then not have the intention of getting through the day doing it. So with that, after getting my exams, I remember whenever I pass any exam, I'm so excited. It's almost like as if I had just won the lottery and I'm taking the kids to go eat sushi because we want to celebrate. They've seen how mom is always studying. She's not going out to have fun with them. Those were the days of sacrifice. And then with my bosses, I've had a few bad bosses, with no disrespect to bosses, but I've also had good ones. I've been blessed to have good ones who have really been interested in me. I've had people call me up and say, hey, can you do this? Oh, because so and so called you in the meeting. And that's what I wanted to reiterate, what Diana said about conversations that are made and you're not in that room. Somebody is speaking on your behalf. So I've had people call me and say, hey, this conversation is being said about you here. We want you to do this. So Diana was right. You may not have these guys available for you, okay? And that's where we're saying be intentional. They may tell you 2 o'clock doesn't sound fine. Doesn't mean you would say, oh, okay, thank you. You can say, oh, I do have 5 minutes. Just give me 5 minutes at 4 o'clock or whatever. If it's important to you to speak to that person, especially if you see that that's your next up in your career, then you should go for it. And also, even if the person doesn't want to talk to you physically, you can send an email. You can just say, hey, I just wanted to know what your thoughts are concerning this. And then try to always, in quotes, brag. I was in a meeting once and they asked me, "Oh, what did you do? Can you tell us more about what you've done?" And I was just talking casually because in my culture back home, it is my job to do. So I'm not supposed to brag about it. I'm being paid to do it. So anyway, I'm just telling you what I did. But I just said it casually. Oh, I was able to do this. I was able to take care of this. And my boss jumps in. What Ijoma is trying to tell you is that she did this, she did this, she did this, and she said it. And as we left the meeting, my boss said to me, "I'm going to teach you how to brag." So that's what we're talking about. Women, we sometimes think that what we've done is not so much of so much of a noise making. But for every little opportunity that we have, let us blow that trumpet. Because one, we don't know who is listening. Two, we do not know whose morale we're actually encouraging or we're boosting while we're doing that. And also it helps us to learn more. I keep saying every time we learn something new, every day I learn something new. Coming on this platform is something new too, again, for me. Like, I'm having to get more ideas, listen to my friends talk, and we're able to share ideas, share knowledge. I mean, it doesn't just stop here. It just gets better and better is what I'm trying to say.
Very good. Thank you for sharing. And just wanted to kind of make a point very quickly. You mentioned meeting with your boss, who at that moment was your mentor. And when they asked you a question about your role, you kind of downplayed it. But in that moment, your mentor became your champion.
Exactly.
Because that doesn't always happen. So I'm glad that you're sharing that.
Exactly.
All right. We're going to move in. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you, Diana.
And I'm going to go into our final talk very quickly because I want to leave about 10 minutes for the audience to ask the questions. So we've talked about the topic. We know now what we need to do. We must be intentional. We must be interested in what we're doing. We must be open to have mentors. We have to be open to be mentors as well. So can you just give us your final thought about this topic? How do we build the next generation of women leaders in different industries, not just IT? Please, Diana, please go first.
I wasn't expecting to be called. So listen, I think doing things like what we're doing, let's put ourselves out there. Let's try to share our knowledge. Let's take an active interest. I think specifically for women, just the way that we're conditioned kind of goes back to what Ijoma was talking about. We don't like to brag. We just like to do our own thing. And so, you need women leaders, women mentors to really draw it out of you. I created a group which was Women Leaders Roundtable when I was in Capgemini, and the goal I told all the women leaders that was at that roundtable was for them to actually help the other women that were not leaders and kind of bring them up with them. I said, listen, this group is not about you; it's really for you to help and bring up the next women leaders that are coming up. And so we did everything from putting out events, we did programs, we did mentoring sessions, we brought speakers in, we played an active role in mentorship, and we even created a specific mentorship program that was run by one of my colleagues, Minta Dioka then, just to make sure that we provided that access to ourselves and to other leaders, even the men, because, we're all in this together. To bring the men on as allies, just to make sure that they did have that guidance and they could kind of look at things differently. So I think that there's so many things that we can do, but really going back to sort of I think what is now maybe the operative word for today, just being intentional. I'm very particular about helping women. I'm very invested in women. I take an interest in anything women related, just because I tell you why, because I never really had that. Right. So, coming up in my career, I didn't really have a women leader coming to me 20 years ago, 15 years ago saying, oh, you know what, I take an interest in you. What do you do? How can I help you? Do you need guidance? Do you need advice? I didn't really have that. And so, when I see other women at work and I'm able to encourage them and support them and say, hey, listen, if you need anything, I'm here. I've solved problems from simple things like working hours, where women said, listen, my boss is not going to allow me. He wants me to work these hours. And I'll say, don't worry, I'll take care of it. Even if it's not something that I could take care of, I go and, make it happen. I find who the right person to talk to, and I advocate for that woman. I make a case and say, hey, we got to do this. How can we support this person? I've done things like helping people to get salary increases even when they didn't know that they needed it. We've run benefits workshops just for women to be aware of the benefits that is available. Do you know that a lot of us don't even use benefits that our company offers? We're not even aware of it most of the time, especially as women. So we've done just so many things just to try to give the attention and just really uplift other women. And that's very, very important to me. And, Anna likes this. I don't want to sing, but those of you that know Kenny Rogers, the gambler, I recommend that you go and listen to the song. It really just talks about you have to know when to hold, when to fold, know when to walk away, know when to run. Again, about owning your career, women. You got to know when the right time is to make that leap. And sometimes, where you thought was the right place for you might not be the right place for you. You might need to move a little bit. You might need to find other opportunities. So it's okay. You don't have to stay with the same company for 20 years. It's okay. If you're not being promoted, you can have that conversation with your boss. You can, but remember, go with your accomplishments and say, hey, this is what I've accomplished, this is what I've done. Like Ijoma said, let's brag about it a little bit and say, I've been able to do this. What does this tell you though? It means you have to do good work. Don't just think, okay, because I'm a woman now, you have to promote me. No, we have it in us. Let's do good work, speak up, build that team of allied mentors and champions. But women leaders specifically, let us just make sure that we continue to just support and reach out. Don't wait for somebody to come to you and say, mentor me. Why don't you step up and say, hey, I'd love to work with you. I'd love to support you. Can you set up a one-to-one with me? Let's start with once a month. Let's, take an interest in somebody. Seek people out. Sometimes people that are of different gender even, or, whatever it is, just try to be the one. I've brought women into groups that I've set up or that I'm part of that most people probably would be like, why is this person in this group? And they were the best addition ever to that group because people didn't know about them. So I think that's some of the things that we can do as women in this.
Awesome.
All right. Just any final like share with us before we go to
Diana, we didn't hear the song.
I tried. Try to stay dignified.
I keep singing it to myself.
Yeah. So I just wanted to piggyback on what Diana said, and we borrowed the word today, which is being intentional. But I also wanted to add, in the workplace too, there are learning pathways that you may be able to have access to for courses. Even if you're not working right now, there are free online courses. There's Coursera, you can link onto for you to get knowledge on anything that you may find interesting. Diana mentioned benefits too at work, especially women with all the things that we go through. Companies give now mental health days. You have to find out what your benefits are as well and maximize it. Sometimes my team will come to me, talk about something happening or something that is not going according to how it's supposed to be. And I just say, step away from your desk, take a walk. Just walk away and then come back to it. And that helps me a lot too. If I find out that I'm working on something and I just find myself going in circles, I just get up, just take a walk, go and do something else and change my scenery in quotes and then come back again to it. So that can help us too, because even with the way we work from home as well, we find ourselves juggling other things. If you're home and you're with your kids, something must definitely come up. So find out what type of benefits your office is offering as well. Like I said, in my organization, we offer mental health days as well. You might have that in addition to the sick days, the vacation time off that you have. That may also go a long way. And we also mentioned mentorship. Now, some companies too offer mentorship programs. Find out if your company offers that as well, without you necessarily wanting to speak to your direct boss to be your mentor. If it's something that may not be feasible, sign up to be a mentee or something. Sign up, and it doesn't have to be also in your organization itself. Seek out companies that do offer these programs. And remember, we're all talking long term, which is investing in yourself. In all this conversation we've had right now, the key is for the woman to invest in herself. Nobody else is going to do it for us. And that is why we're emphasizing the need to build your network, to build your ally, to build the person, your champion, to build who you can say is your go-to person if you have any type of questions, work-wise. And it doesn't have to only be career-wise. It could be any other thing, something else that you find joy doing. It could be making wine. You go out to make wine, and from making wine, you meet somebody else, and conversations start from there. So I hope with these few points of ours, we've been able to convince you and not confuse you about the power of the woman in the workplace and working intentionally towards growth. Thank you.
I know we are virtual, but sometimes it's like different when we have an applause, right?
Yeah, no, this is very good. I mean, do we have any questions, guys? I do have a small point I want to make before we wrap up. Did we get any questions, or we can move on?
Linda, are you monitoring the questions?
I don't see any questions. I think if you like to wrap it up, we should be good. And then at the end,
I 1 second. I do have a question though. I do have. If there is one thing you would advise the audience here and everyone else who is watching live and later, one thing to learn, whether it's tech skills, whether it's soft skills, what is your choice?
Ijoma, you can go.
Yeah. Do not deter. If someone tells you no, don't take it personal. It just may mean that you need to go back and just improve on whatever it is that you were speaking to the person initially about. I'm just saying, do not be deterred by whatever negative or any pushback you get now. If it is something you know that that's what you want, just go for it. As it comes with success, there must be some type of holding back, but do not get discouraged. Just keep pushing on and you'll get there.
Very good. Thank you, Ijoma.
Ijoma, I love what you said, because I was going to say don't give up. So I love it. It's just, I think it just really covers everything. But I think more importantly, guys, listen, speak up. Speak up. Like, brag about yourself. Speak up in meetings. I've been in situations in the past where you had that idea and you sat on that idea, right? Or you had that point to make, and then somebody else made the point, and it looked like they just, said something that was so amazing. So speak up in every situation. Speak up to stand for yourself. Communication is key in everything that you do. Obviously not be combative, but just make sure that you're able to express yourself clearly about what you want, what your goals are. And so to wrap up, there was a phrase I came across, I think it was sometime last year, that I love so much. It says, live your life like a diversified portfolio. This was by the show.
I like that.
Former CEO, Consumer
I
Banking.
think you do that, Diane.
now CEO of TIAA. And what it really means is you have to keep reordering things going on in your life. It's okay. Sometimes you might have 20% allocated to study because, the other 80% is taken elsewhere. And sometimes you have to rejig that and say, you know what, I'll put 10% there, or no, now this is a good time in my life. I can put 50%. This is for everybody, men, women, whoever you are. Try to live your life like a diversified portfolio. Allocate time for everything. Say, hey, 5% for friends, 25% for family, 15% for work, 10% for personal development. Literally just put on paper all the things that are important to you, and just try to allocate time to it. So like Ijoma mentioned earlier, if you have professional interests, like me, I'm very much into building up other women and designing NGOs. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be launching a new NGO very soon. Allocate some time for that so that you don't overexert yourself, and try to always juggle. And it's okay to juggle that portfolio, by the way. You can reevaluate this at the beginning of every year, every 6 months, every 3 months, whatever works for you. So, you're not a failure. You might put certain things and it just didn't work that way. It's okay. Realign it and just try to live your life like a diversified portfolio.
I also wanted to add to it, Diana, have an accountability partner, if you will, because most of us have all these goals we've set aside for ourselves and we just have it. Nobody knows, if you did have it set out at the beginning of the year or at the end of the year. But it's a good idea to have an accountability partner, someone who you can share that with, someone who is there with you all the way. Somebody that is not going to judge you if you do not push on. Somebody who's going to, sing your praise, like even if you just as much as wrote a business plan. Even if that business didn't take up, but you wrote a business plan and the person can tell you, good job, small steps, we're going there, we're getting there. You need an accountability partner. Just something else to add to what Diana said.
I love it. Thank you so much. That's amazing.
Thank you, ladies. Anna, do we have any questions yet?
So,
no questions. All right.
I think in the chat there are some only comments agreeing with what you were saying, and there are like big letters actually. If you have time to go to read, I don't know if anyone wants to.
I see it.
Yeah.
So I see it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you for everything that you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity. Great.
Thank you so much.
You are so talented, so beautiful. I'm sure we will be together again very soon.
All right.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you.
And now we have our grand finale. On the left, everybody can see our open mic community chat where we have our youth attendees from Girls Who Code. So it's generations and generations of women in tech. Please join us. Just look for the blue button on the left side under today's agenda.
So we are waiting for the next session. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.